Hello, friends. Welcome to a new, potentially experimental side of things. No, I haven't put up a video in a good long while. That is partially because the hard drive that had all the old videos on it currently is being kind of a POS. So, in the midst of trying to get that fixed and figuring out how to get all that stuff moved over without it taking a billion years, in the meantime, though we are still recording episodes of Chivalry, I want to try a little bit something new, sharing with you some of my own behind the scenes kind of things. Um, we're going to try to make a map, and depending on how many people get engaged with it, you could change certain aspects of it, name things, cities, towns, forests, who knows what. We're in the map making website slash software called Inkarnate. It's spelled with a K. You can see it lovingly up here at the top part of the screen there. Um, we're gonna make a watercolor slash parchment map for a new campaign that I'm currently in the process of putting together. Um, while I do the lovely generation tool to give you some background on things, um, this is a separate dealio from Chivalry. It is I apologize if I say this wrong, Wuxia cultivation campaign in the Savage Worlds TTRPG system. It is set in a homebrew fantasy land. I haven't really given it a name yet, but I know what the main country slash culture is. To give you some background for the campaign world, we're looking at a world that about 200 years ago, the mortals went to war against the gods. And 180 years ago, they won with a usage of a large collection of special weapons that were created by an unknown blacksmith, name lost to history and to legend, utilizing forbidden techniques and all sorts of nonsense and tomfoolery, created god-slaying weapons. And the first one, and the most powerful one, is one known as Godbreaker, which was used by the bigwig guy who led the rebellion. After that, with the gods decimated and their heavenly messengers scattered to the winds or purged from existence, depending on which source you talk to, the mortals, seeing these godly bodies sitting just in front of them, decided to turn them into weapons, taking bones, flesh, blood, anything they could really get their hands on, and turned it into something useful. They created weapons and armor from the bones and flesh, and from the other bits mixed in with blood, they created a substance known as ichor. This ichor caused a schism amongst humanity, because at the beginning there was only humans, that at first was just a magical super drug. You drank it and you felt powerful, indestructible. Your capabilities with the mystical energies of the universe grew exponentially. And at first, it only lasted for a short time, but prolonged use caused the individuals who consumed the Ichor, which at the time was only given out to those who participated in the rebellions, and to the hands of the generals of the 13 armies that led the fight with the bigwig guy. Those 13 generals became the progenitors of the different races of this world, on top of the bigwig guy. Of course, he's the leader of the primarily human faction. So technically, if I refer to humanity in the course of this video, that technically talks about all the other races too, because at one point they were. And that's a very speedy splintering of the human race over the course of only a couple hundred years. But during that time, history is a little bit foggy on it, but there used to be a different magic system at the beginning. Um, we don't really get to know too much about it other than the fact that it is different from what the current magic system, because as the gods are dead, whatever energies that they used at the time and what people used way before then might not even exist anymore. Instead, we have a system built on meditation, personal discipline, enlightenment, and gaining an understanding of the universe, which unlocks special abilities inside of the body as you cultivate and gather this ambient energy around you, creating a cultivation system that I've fleshed out in Savage Worlds, though I'm going to be changing the names and stuff with it. It will be on Foundry because I'm getting real used to that, and it makes it a lot or a lot easier, I should say, for people who have never used Savage Worlds to get used to the system because there's less having to look through things and do stuff that way. Regardless, let's look into how much ocean we want to have for the first bit. Oh, that is as zoomed out as it's going to get. Okay. Now, whether we have multiple, I guess you could call them continents or islands, is up for debate. It really depends on the map that is generated. That one's kind of cool. Let's see if I can. Let's do 52%. See what that does. Okay, get a little bit more land in there. Sorry that I'm always sniffling. Seasonal allergies, having had a broken nose for the majority of my life, has not made breathing through my nose very easy, so I apologize for the constant sniffling that you hear in either this video or in my old ones. I call myself a permanent member of the Sniffle Club. Get some good laughs here and there. So I have a basic idea of the world overall, and it's going to be kind of a Discworld kind of situation where, unlike the planet that we live on now, which is definitively circular, well, spherical, not circular, this one is going to be flat. If you're familiar with the Discworld books from Terry Pratchett, or I'm sorry, Sir Terry Pratchett, you got to give him that very, very well earned title. You might be familiar, except this one's not going to be on the back of a turtle. Just a flat, empty space. Also, if you're familiar with Exalted, is kind of in a similar vein. Um, you would call it creation. At least that's what the people call it. So all of it is all situated on a very large disk, and at the edge of that is the abyss, essentially hell. Not the void of space, but something very different. Okay, well, let's take a longer look at this one. Oh, I can deal with that. Let's do a quick save just so that we have this to go back to, as long as I don't save over it like a nerd. Okay, so now that we've done that one, turn back on autosave. Why would you turn that off? That is okay. We will refresh the editor here. That's perfectly fine. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have turned that on. Shit. Okay. Sorry for the wasted time here. Let's turn that back off. Hey, didn't need a thing this time. Okay, so we've got this one to come back to. Let's do 5 more. No, we are at 52%. Thank you very much. Let's actually lower that down to like 45. A boop. Okay. Kind of want more emptiness along at least one side. This one's okay, but I kind of want to have it on the right side of the map, maybe going into like the top. Close. Let's go back. Hmm. Sorry if it's very quiet. I'm just trying to give it a good look over to see if it fits the scheme in my head. But like I mentioned, I mean, this is kind of okay, but there's too much land. So I did lower it down. You'd think I'd expect that. It's really more trying to see what kind of options we have. So we're going to stick with this guy. We're going to save again. We haven't really changed too much, but now we can get into the paint of things. So what we can do now is look into land brushes. Now, I did mention we are doing like a kind of watercolor kind of look to things because I'm going to be using the watercolor city maps that are available through Inkarnate here. Let's see. Can I do a little bit more blue to the oceans here? We have the water brush. Let's just slap a fill in there. That's a pretty extreme blue. Just kind of hoping for a more muted one, but I don't think there's very many blue ones in there. I mean, I think this is the one that we used before. That was a little bit different. Let's mess with title things real fast. I'm used to the old editor, so give me a moment to. I don't want them to be wider. Put up shorten the gaps. Make more. I want them to be there. Okay. Can I? That's the white one. That's fine. Neat. But doesn't really want me to use my scroll wheel for that, huh? Put that back up to 2. Okay. What it was before is okay. Maybe make this less pronounced. Sure. Let's stick with that. All right. So landscape. We already did kind of greenish color. That looks green, but it says dark gray. No, you can do what you got to do, man. If you want to look green but be gray, it's entirely on you to want to do that. Ooh, no. I didn't realize that that was for the actual brush stuff. Now, granted, I can switch to any of the other map brushes, but I want to try to. Ooh, I say that. What if we skippity hop over to our. I think this is a little bit too close up. Yeah. What if we do the cities one instead? This one hasn't had a good update in a while. That is perfectly fine. Let's reduce the texture size. Sure. 50% should be okay. Here we go. Now, obviously, this isn't gonna. Does this look like a camouflage pattern to anybody else? That's kind of funny. What if we do a little bit of watercoloring business in here? Let's do this one for the base brush. We also need to reduce this. Oh no, it is already reduced down to 50%. As mentioned, I'm used to the old setup. Did that one for ages and ages and ages. Okay. And maybe do a little bit of some of the brighter stuff. Around the edges to get that kind of sea foamy kind of vibe. Technically, I could switch over to the realistic ones too, but I like the watercolor for this particular vibe. Originally, I was going to build the campaign for 5th edition, but I felt that that would add a little bit too much extra stuff to it. Granted, I'm very good at making subclass kind of things, but not so much full on classes. Originally, it was going to be heavily reliant on a homebrew class that I found on Reddit some ages ago. If I find the original Reddit thing, I'll put it in the description. But it's called the Martial Sage. It's a more hardcore kind of monk vibe, where each subclass, you get the subclass at level 1, and each one is like specifically about a weapon or weapon type, allowing you to do all of your kind of hardcore monk stuff involving these weapons. There's one that's called the Art of the Iron Bell, that essentially makes you, just an unarmed badass, and it's super cool. Like I said, if I could find the original link, I'll put it in the description. Because uh, that is a class worth looking at, especially for anyone who is um, a big fan of like the monk stuff, as I am. Monk is my favorite class other than wizard. Okay, so we've got a little bit more patterning stuff to do, but that's okay. We can figure out a basis for like biomes and stuff. With it being a Discworld, we probably don't need to have like strict. I mean, I was talking. I know my mind's kind of going everywhere. You know, ADHD sometimes do that. Biomes and having to stick with where they are on the like a map in terms of like temperature and water density, not water density, like water scarcity and um, above or below the equator. But since we're on a world that is, well, in the universe that I'm creating, obviously not our own world, um, we have little need for that kind of like equatorial stuff. Uh, I might look into Discworld a little bit more to see about how Sir Terry Pratchett did it. Or we can just figure out our own placements for deserts and stuff. Because, you know, to figure wintry kind of things happening up there, maybe like pattern it down just a little bit. And then we can even get into like deserty kind of things here-ish. And create some cultures down there. Now, I intend for, just so that we can see what it would look like now, is we can keep the parchment world stamps, but we'll have the color schemes be the watercolor stuff. Keep the medium mountains. So my plan, put on, I'm not gonna keep this, but the plan was to make a huge mountain range up and down this coast here. Ooh. Dotted with some taller mountains here and there. And treated as a major bulwark against our nastier abyssal enemies, because at the time of the campaign start, the abyss has started to lay siege to the lands of mortals, and because the gods are dead, it's real hard to stop these guys, or at least there's nothing absolute stopping them from coming in. And a big struggle with it because a huge facet of Wuxia's stuff is that there needs to be some kind of political struggle on top of the cool martial arts stuff. Which means that not only is there going to be people beating up each other for various reasons, but they'll also be using the act of combat as a means of proving how correct you are in kind of debate circles. Be like the equivalent of a debate class in high school or something, allowing you to beat up your opponent as long as your conversation during the combat is worthy enough for it. Which is a strange concept, but that's why it's a fantasy land. does it really need to make the same sense that we make of our own world? Which, suffice to say, sometimes doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I don't know why I continue to mess with it, but that's essentially what the mountain range is going to look like. There's probably going to be other mountains around just to help with things, but that's going to be the biggest part of it. We're going to do a quick save, and of course we can just delete all the mountains afterwards. And just to make it easier on all of us, once it's done saving, I should have done it before then. Scatterbrain, let's go. We can either select everything from in there or just go whoop and then Control G, call it mountains, and then we lock it. I'll leave it at the 0 layer. That should be okay. We'll probably go through and change those from, what's that? Watercolor paper. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Don't really need it at the moment. Takes me a second to really parse colors and stuff. I have to wear these special glasses to help with like blue and yellow blocking things. Most people say that they don't really work, but since my eyes don't get all gunky and stuff, kind of on board with these ones. Oh nope, that's paint in the water. Don't want you to do that. Here we go. Ooh. Do some color patterning in here too, not just brown. This is just for the beginning, just so that we have something to separate this from the rest of our burgeoning color palette. Pop back to this guy. Oh, not pop back to that guy. That is not the guy I wanted. It's this guy, as mentioned. It's hard to see certain colors with these glasses on. Blue is not a real color. Okay. Leave it like that. There's a saying. It's a very crass saying, but I learned it in my human anatomy class and in also my character design class when I was going to college and doing stuff. Um, as I mentioned, it's very crass, so I apologize about how it sounds. It's called "kill your babies." Do the big details first before starting to go into um, the smaller details. Shit, I lost my train of thought. Do the big things before you do the little things, because once you start doing the little things, then you're like, oh, but then other things are getting all goofy. So this is the first kind of major detail that I really had in mind. I might just continue this going down this way and just make this like some major blockage thing, and maybe even open up this part for like another handful of communities. We're going to keep using these kind of as stamps. We're going to go with a more generic stamps. I might switch over to the other map style to grab those. So I don't really need ones like these, and I don't need detailed ones like these ones. Oh, maybe these guys. These really just generic ones. Ones that don't really have much identity to them. So maybe these guys. I mean, this one kind of works. Kind of flowery ones. Yeah. Might be a little bit hard to see. I'm thinking, oh, before I do that, let's turn on the grid. Ew. I said the grid, not whatever monstrosity that is. Thank you. All right. So we got our mountains. Wonderful, beautiful, love it. Let's figure out what we want to use for capitals. Little capital stamps. I really like this guy. This guy's great. This guy's rad. Um, that feels like really the biggest one, but this one could also be a good one. Though it's less centered. That might just make my personal anal retentive business. No, that I think those two, I think for now. If you want, you could also take a look at that one, see if that one might be worth it. We'll just put a little text field underneath. Oh, that's a very, very large text field, but that's okay. We'll just make it get a little bit smaller. And then do something that is a little bit easier to read. Is there one that doesn't have a whole lot of stuff going on with it? We won't keep this font for other things, but I want it to be easily read by the people who have some pretty nasty dyslexia stuff going on, because I know that that happens to me. I also have some dysphoria things that happen. We'll call this one number one. Then we just copy, paste, and paste. And this one will be number two. And then number three. Ooh. Uh, for all three of these, we'll change the text color to ooh, do red because that one stands out a little bit more. Um, maybe make it. I'll make them a little bit bigger. That should be okay. All right. So that's what you can vote on for if you've got like a preference if you'd like. I'm thinking of putting the capital either somewhere in. Let's grab a shape tool. We'll make it red just like those letters are. And then how big is that? Oh, let's make that a solid line. Ooh. Oh, then it changed the color again. Well, not but much. So either in this circle, uh, this one, or down here. Kind of want it close to the water because they need to have some kind of trade. It might be good to put it near to this one because you can turn this into like a canal kind of thing for like going back and forth from, defending the edge of existence because at the edge of this is like, no man's land. It's where the abyss starts. Can't really do that to this one because that's a little bit too wide to turn it into a canal. But hey, we could. It's there. And this we can just assume just keeps going off into different areas. Like we can even turn this into like a river. We can make more rivers off of this guy. So there's a lot of options that we have. I'm thinking of those three. If anyone has any other suggestions of where to put things, great. Would love to do that. Um, if you have different colors that you would rather have, any preference for where certain biomes should go, feel free to leave a comment. And if you want to watch more of this particular series, feel free to drop a like, drop a message, speak your preferences, do your business. I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts on it. Until then, have a good day, have a good remainder of your week, and I hope everything goes well for you. Because this world is kind of garbage. At least it's getting there. There's a lot of good a lot of good parts of it, but it seems that there's a lot more hate out there than there is love. Let's try to make more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. So have a good rest of your day. Love you very much.